Hello everyone, Gilligan Kruger 0829 here, and welcome to the first day of another movie series marathon review. For this series, we will be looking at the upcoming science fiction terror film, Prometheus, the supposed prequel to the iconic Alien franchise that started so many years ago. And as such, the films we'll be looking at are the first four Alien movies, Alien vs. Predator 1 and 2, and finally we'll end on Prometheus, set to come out in American cinemas on June 8th, aka this Friday. But, as with every series review I do, we're going to start with square one and look at the original 1979 sci-fi terror film, Alien. This was one of director Ridley Scott's first movies, and as far as I'm concerned, one of his best movies to have ever come out, mainly for the fact that it essentially redefined both the science fiction and the horror genre and has become an influence for so many films ever since it came out. But how does the original hold up after over 33 years? Well, we've got a lot to talk about today, so let's just get right into the plot synopsis. So this movie begins in the near future, where we see a mining ship known as the Nostromo coming back from a routine expedition. However, it wakes up its crew from a stasis sleep because it has picked up a distress signal from a nearby planet, and the crew has to go check it out under procedure. And while they're expecting what appears to be a crash site, they find no survivors. However, one of the officers, named Kane, played by John Hurt, discovers dozens, if not hundreds, of eggs in one of the ship's cargo bins, and they're of an unknown species, so he decides to look into them a little bit more. However, as he's inspecting one of them, it hatches, and a creature latches out and grabs onto his face. So the crew naturally is forced to leave and jettison from the site. And though it takes a while, the creature eventually falls off Kane's face and everything seems to go back to normal. However, it isn't until too late that they realize that the distress signal was a code to stay away from the planet, and now a terrifying space monster is on board their ship ready to wreak havoc. So, how come a movie like this, Alien, redefined the science fiction and horror genre the way it did so much? Because if you want a good way to visualize it, a pretty much cut and dry method would say it's kind of like a mixture between 2001: A Space Odyssey and Jaws. Both of these movies... Jaws, my fault. Both of these movies, obviously, you can see influence to Alien, but I honestly think it's unfair to call it just a combination of those movies, because it has several original ideas, too. Let's start with, obviously, the best part about this movie that made it so famous, the tension and suspense it managed to achieve. Now, the reason it did this so well, and again, bringing back, this did come out in the wake of Jaws, and you definitely see some of the same methods employed, but what made this different is it didn't do it in just one specific way. It did it in two main ways, and they kind of flip-flopped every now and then. Sometimes you would see the alien and you're just waiting for it to hop down and KO whoever's next. But other times you don't at all. Like, there's one scene, one of the most famous jump scenes towards the end, well, sorry, not towards the end, the middle, having trouble speaking today, where one of our crew members is searching for an air duct to see if they can find the ship, and we see one of the others screaming, it's there, and we don't see it. We just see this little radar blip that we know it's coming, and now we're thinking, where is it, oh god! And that's a very effective scene. And this movie knew that frights came from suspense, not just jump scares that we get every now and then, but it was smart, it's very well directed in the horror sense, and I honestly don't have trouble seeing why this is still regarded as one of the scariest movies even to this day. The cast and crew, you know them by heart. They've been ripped off 100 times by other movies, but this is the one that got it right. You know all these characters. You've got the strict Captain Dallas, played by Tom Skerritt. You've got the interested science officer who only wants it for research, named Ash, played by Ian Holm. Bilbo Baggins. And we also have our strong female character, eventually the heroine of the franchise, Ripley, played in one of her most famous roles by Sigourney Weaver. Again, this character is definitely influential. You can see part of her in a lot of female strong leads that came afterwards, and it's really not hard to see why. She's free-spirited, she's strong, and she's rebellious. She's just a great character. And also good in this movie are characters like Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, Yaphet Kotto, and as mentioned before, John Hurt as Kane. And all of these characters have unique personalities that you really tend to root for them throughout the story. They're not just brought in as like appetizers to the monsters, preparing as some of them will eventually be the main course, ha ha ha. They're done in a way that you actually are worried for them throughout the story, even when the alien comes and eventually makes most of them their meal. And speaking of which, you can't do a review of this movie without talking about the alien, played by dancer Bajri Bardot, Billie Holiday, this guy. Yes, I think most everyone remembers this terrifying movie monster, and it is not hard to see why. H.R. Giger's concept is not only creatively original, but as I said before, it is bone-chillingly scary. From the tip of this thing's teeth to the end of its tail, it is a fright fest on two legs. And it is handled, something else that I think makes this thing scary, in a way that seems so realistic. You actually believe that creatures like this could exist. Kind of like The Exorcist, in where you're watching this and you're saying, yeah, I know this is fictional, but could this really happen? If we really met a space civilization, could they do this exact same thing so gruesomely? And that's what I think really made this movie. Ridley Scott wanted to ground it in reality, and he did it to a perfect sense, something that most horror movies do not do nowadays. They just go off the edge with special effects and gore, but this one knew what to do, and that's why I love it so much. I definitely think it deserves its terrifying reputation. It has cleverly placed suspense and trauma. It has a great ensemble of characters, and one of the greatest monsters of all time. It's definitely a terrifying winner. Now, a lot like the film The Avengers, which I just got finished reviewing, I don't really have any huge problems with this movie. They're really just slight little nitpicks. Like, while I do praise the great ensemble cast, I'll be completely honest, I never really liked Veronica Cartwright's character all that much. Not so much that it was a bad performance, but to me personally, it seemed like most all of her dialogue was in whiny screams, especially when she talked to Ripley. It really got annoying at times. And while I'm talking about it, I think she might have been used as a contrast to Ripley, but I don't know. I just wasn't fond of her character. And as much as I hate to admit it, rewatching it, I thought it did get kind of slow in the first act. That's kind of distracting when you have a film like that and you're saying, go faster, but you know what, it did pick up, and the result and payoff is responsible and definitely great to sit through. All in all, Alien, I think, definitely holds up after all these years. It's still terrifying, it's still creative, and it's still just a great film. Definitely a great start to a mixed franchise, but sometimes the start is the best part. So, 5 stars out of 5 for Alien. And you can find all my movie reviews on my YouTube channel. If you have a movie you'd like me to review, comment on this video or on my channel. Subscribe if you like. And until next time, peace.